Wheel Podcast, episode number 4. I'm Andrew. That's Ethan.
What's up,
Evan.
everybody?
We got a little shorter episode today. Just with not much news coming out. Diamondbacks just made it to the World Series. I'm just gonna say that now. That's cool. But that's my team. But moving on into the racing, the important stuff of this podcast, the stuff that we actually talk about here. Formula One went to Austin.
Yes, they did.
You had Max Verstappen winning over a podium of Lando Norris and George Russell, which
Yeah.
we made us 100% in the race and correct picks. So good job to us. We were not
Yeah.
we were not perfect in the sprint, but you can only be perfect so much. That was because of the disqualification to Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc over floorboards.
Yeah, that was really really weird to see. We don't see a lot of disqualifications, it happens sometimes, but for something like that to happen, and half of the cars that were tested for it was the floorboard being too worn down essentially, which is why Hamilton and Leclerc got disqualified. They were two of four cars that got selected for that test. So the fact that 50% of the cars that were tested got disqualified makes you wonder how many other cars would have failed the inspection.
Do we know the two cars that passed?
Um, I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe let's see. It was
While you're looking at that, I'm going to say that it's concerning as a fan that two of the four cars didn't pass just for safety. I don't want to see these broken floorboard cause a crash and potentially injure a driver, whether that's a worn down floorboard, whether that's any serious. I don't want to see a car failing. Quite frankly,
yeah. I mean, it's important that the cars are within the regulations, but I don't know, something like that. I think one of the cars failed by only like a tenth of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this does have lots of implications though. We saw Logan Sargent score his first F1 points because of the DQ, the first American in 30 years to score a point in an F1 race. Probably not the way he would have wanted to score points, but I'm sure he's just happy to be on the board as a point scorer in Formula One.
Woo! Honestly,
What is a kilometer?
yeah.
So
Eagle
big,
screeches.
big respect to Logan Sargent there.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems very, very likely that he'll be in
Mm-hmm.
that seat again next year. So he'll have the opportunity to build off of that. Hope
Mm-hmm.
he can finish out the year strong.
Yeah.
Another implication, though, that this has is Lewis Hamilton has been trying to chase down Sergio Perez for second in the championship. And last time out, or the previous time, I should say, in Qatar, he retired from the race after he crashed into his teammate George Russell on lap one. And then now he's being
Mm-hmm.
disqualified from Austin. So
Mm-hmm.
he is making it much tougher on himself to get in second place in the
Mm-hmm.
championship. And Sergio Perez is
Mm-hmm.
looking like he might be able to retain. Maybe. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about from the race, Ethan?
Um, I just would like to say that I'm not sure this sprint format works because we kind of just get a mini race that, in a way, sort of spoils the
Mhm.
the actual race.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of sprint weekends, but something needs to change.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. It's just like for me, a casual F1 fan, I'm gonna say that. Why would I tune into a a shorter version of the main version? Like it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
I'm I'm of the opinion of that they should get rid of them and make the races in general longer, in my opinion. I don't think that's gonna happen. Either of those two things are gonna happen. But
yeah.
that's of my opinion there.
So, just ending it off, mentioning that Verstappen and Norris were the two cars that were in compliant in compliance with the regulation. So the the original top four
Mhm,
were the drivers
mhm.
tested.
Yeah, I I do find it interesting that they tested the original top four, and those were all four different teams. I wonder if uh Russell finished fourth instead of Norris, would they be testing both of the Mercedes cars? That's I don't know if you have the answer to that, but that would be
No,
something
I
of
don't know.
interest. An interest.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh yeah.
Hmm.
So as we talked about, the disqualifications moved Lando Norris up from third to second. Um, they got Carlos Sainz on the podium as well, and Leclerc and Hamilton. And so actually, no, it was oh
Russell?
yeah. So, huh? No, Signs did get
Yeah. Russell
third.
got up to top five,
Oh
not top three. I said Russell earlier.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So moving on to Homestead Miami though.
Yeah. Homestead
How'd
Miami.
that race go?
That was a pretty good race. I will say before we talk about anything that happened from the Cup series, I will start with the Truck series because that had some interesting things. Zane Smith, his uh front mirror, I don't it's not a mirror, it's front window. It was flexing during the race. A lot of fans
Mm,
on different social medias were pointing that out. And then he finished second, and then he got disqualified. That does remind me of, I believe it was in, I want to it was 2019, I want to say, with Kevin Harvick and Stuart Haas racing. Their rear window was flexing, I believe, at Texas and then at Las Vegas, which got the win. At the time was basically all but disqualification. They lost their the points and uh win credit to the next round. They got to keep the trophy though, because that was not in the rules, but now it's in the rules where if Zane Smith would have won that race, he would have not been able to keep the trophy. But yeah, also in the truck race, there was a crew member struck by a car. I didn't see it. I hope he's doing well, but
yeah, you never want to see that.
yeah. Going into the Cup race, Christopher Bell was not confident. He said it was. I saw a headline saying, uh, "Not Christopher Bell not confident in heading into Homestead, Miami," and Christopher Bell was needing a rebound, but he said, of all the tracks, why does it have to be Homestead, Miami? What does Christopher Bell go out and do? He wins the race. There was a couple cars that took themselves out to get there. Kyle Larson coming to pit road, he was gaining rapidly on Blaney, and then he avoided Blaney and hit the sand barrels, which was interesting, which led him to retire from the race. I do think if he would have hit Blaney, he would have had less damage, but I wonder if he could have veered left and avoided Blaney. That would have been harder to do. Or if he could have veered right more. He was just Blaney was slow coming into pit road, but I think Larson was also way too hot on the brakes. Neither driver, I think, expected to have the other one there. So that was interesting. And I think it was not that restart, but on a restart after that, Denny Hamlin basically raced Blaney so hard that Bell and Byron got by, and then Bell passed Byron to win the race. I do think this is a typical Denny Hamlin racing. That's how he races you. He races guys really close, really tight, and you get bit by it, as Blaney was. And then Hamlin was, because he had a mechanical issue that I don't know if this is true or not, but I do believe that stemmed from the contact of racing Blaney, which, as someone who does not like Hamlin and someone who does like Blaney, I do have bias here, but I will say that was aggressive racing that screwed both drivers out of the chance at winning, and especially Hamlin, it's shot at advancing to the next round. And then I will say, after the race, Blaney said, what does Hamlin call people? A hack? Which was in reference to last year when Alex Bowman spun Hamlin for the lead at Martin. No, it was actually, I think it was 2 years ago when Alex Bowman spun Hamlin for the lead at Martinsville. And he said, Hamlin said, he's just a hack about Alex Bowman. So a lot of interesting things with Denny Hamlin over the years. I do think Hamlin either needs to race people better, or he needs to stop complaining about other drivers, because you can't complain about something you do. That's what frustrates me about Hamlin right now.
Yeah. Take some accountability, right?
Yeah, that's what frustrated me with Ross Chastain back in the beginning of last year is he just wasn't taking full accountability. He said, I need to be better, but then proceeded not to be better for a little bit. Now he's cleaned up his act, which I give him props. Great job. But with Hamlin, you can't complain about something you do. That's what I have to say about that. Yeah. And we'll see if there's if they do advance, if Blaney advances and Hamlin doesn't, or vice versa. We'll see if there's any drama at Phoenix, because that could be interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
So there's something else I want to talk about Denny Hamlin, but moving on to the news, there's one interesting piece of NASCAR news. Fans to take the reins of the SS Greenlight pair of Mustangs at Phoenix. No, they are not actually driving the cars. They are choosing what drivers to put in the cars. And JJ Yeley was the first to be announced today. They are choosing which lane to take, the strategy, a bunch of interesting things. this has been done in partnership with Fan Controlled Sports, which I do believe they ran the football league, the Fan Controlled Football League, which
Uh-huh.
I didn't watch, but I do know exists. This will be an interesting partnership.
Yeah,
I'll be curious to see how it goes.
I kind of like that idea. Yeah, I mean, it's very gimmicky, but I do kind of like that idea. They have getting the fans involved in this. The fans get to see the drivers that they want. It's an interesting concept. Yes,
Mhm.
it is very gimmicky. I'm not sure how well it fits like a top flight of motorsport like the NASCAR Cup Series.
Well,
But
it's Xfinity.
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, Xfinity.
I should have
Um,
prefaced that.
okay, yeah, no, I like that for the Xfinity series.
And
Yeah.
SS Greenlight, they aren't. A couple of years ago, you could have said this team could upset at Daytona or Talladega, but they're not what they once were. They used to be like a 20th place team back when they had Ray Black and Greg Galding driving for them. Now they're of the full-time teams the worst, near the worst, or if not the worst. So this hopefully gets them maybe to run a little bit better.
Yeah, okay. With that being said, I do like that move in that case. Get some attention to a team that could probably use it, a team that needs to go back on the up. So yeah, I like that.
I will say Cole Custer did win for them last year, but that was really a Stuart Haas car. And
Mm,
so, but other outside of when Stuart Haas is running their cars, well, actually, they did win this year with this Stuart Haas car. Eric Almirola did win at Sonoma. I forgot about that, but still, actually, my bad. That was RSS, so they did not win this year. But SS Greenlight, outside of when Stuart Haas is running their cars, they are not anything notable. But hey, this might be notable for them. This might lead to something greater. Yeah, that's what I have to say there.
all right.
Also, well, that's the one bit of NASCAR news of note. Moving on to Formula E, the day 2 of Formula E testing was postponed after a garage fire that, as of this recording, the cause is still yet to be determined. Came from the Williams battery source tent or something. Never good to see testing postponed, and never good to see garage fire. Hope everything's well with Formula E. They could get this
Yeah,
back on the road. Do you have
for
anything
sure.
to add there, Ethan?
Nah, just it is unfortunate.
Juncos Racing announced Agustin Canapino to drive the 78 car, which tracks that due to a technical quote unquote error, and then released the same news a day later. Um,
It's kind of a funny situation.
that was a random situation. I do think Canapino does deserve to drive again, as much as I don't like to say he has done well. Thing that makes me not like to say it is him and his fans need to control their anger on about their teammate Callum Ilott. There's a couple instances during the season where they were getting a little too extreme against him. I'm not going to say it because it it shouldn't be said, but yeah, you can look it up if you want to look further. But other than that, Canapino's done really well. He's, from what I've seen, is from a guy who never spoke English 2 years ago, is learning the language well, better than what Takuma Sato has done. But yeah, I mean, the guy's done decent. I would say. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree he deserves a drive. Um, yeah, and about the thing about Callum Ilott, like Ilott's a very good driver as well. He deserves um some respect there, a lot of respect really. So everyone needs to kind of chill out. But yeah, Canapino's a good driver. It's a bit of a funny situation, but because of how things played out, but he definitely does deserve a drive, and he could be a good driver, a really good driver one day.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Go
Um,
ahead.
I was just going to introduce our next story about
I will
yeah,
say we'll talk about Juncos again later with why they might have retracted the message. But go ahead, Ethan, about introducing this next story.
yeah. So we have Pietro Fittipaldi, who will be joining Letterman Lanigan for the 2024 season, and I really like that move. How do you feel about the move, Andrew?
It's one of the moves of all time to be sure. Uh, Everyone thought they were going to go with Yuri Vips, who was retained by LLL potentially for a fourth Indy for a fourth entry that may or may not be Indy only, may or may not exist, maybe full season. I don't we they don't know yet, but
Yeah,
um, Ray Hall's team, they weren't really in need of money, but they're a team that could use the money. I know, but so I know Pietro's bringing a boatload of money with his sponsors. Um, I wouldn't have liked Yuri Vips either. I don't. His last two races
yeah,
were kind of interesting, not really memorable. In well, his only two races. I would have liked to seen them call up Christian Rasmussen, the Indy next champion. I still want to call it Indy Lights. Indy Lights is a way
it
cooler
just
name
seems
than
right.
Knights. But Rasmussen over him, he might be going. Rasmussen might be going somewhere else. There's other drivers better than Pietro and Yuri,
Yeah, I
but
mean, in my mind,
yeah,
yes, I would have rather had Rasmussen as well, but Pietro is a decent enough driver
yeah.
who has raced in INDYCAR
Hmm.
in the past, but
Never
hasn't
full
really
season
had,
though.
yeah, hasn't ever really had a full season, had a chance to get
Hmm.
his feet wet in
Hmm.
the category. So,
Hmm.
for a full season drive, see what he has.
Hmm.
I really, I think it's a good opportunity for him
Hmm.
for for the team. Yeah, it's from the team perspective, it's
Hmm.
kind of like what you said, one of the moves of all time. But for Pietro, I am happy for him for landing that job.
I saw someone make a comment. Well, someone's got to run 22nd. I mean, which is a little harsh. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's a little
the
harsh.
guy could. I mean, Ray Hall cars are capable of winning. We saw it last year with Christian Lundgaard. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
but
he's not going to win the championship or
yeah,
anything, but I think he could be a solid driver.
I think the goal is to have a couple top fives, about five top tens, and a 20th place, maybe not 20th, but like 17th place points finish. Bring that car up to what is really. And if it is the worst Ray Hall car of the three, it should be running 17th on average, not where Jack Harvey was putting it last year.
Yeah, I mean, they could have done better. They could have done a lot worse.
Yeah. And with that now, we're going to talk about the remaining IndyCar seats left, not filled, which there's 4 definitely not filled and 3 kind of up in the air. We'll talk about those, but starting off with the 4 not filled, we have the 14 Dale Coyne, the 20 Ed Carpenter, both of the Dale Coyne cars, the 18 and the 51, which is with Rick Ware Racing. Those I do expect Ferrucci to re-up with AJ Foyt. They ran well at the 500 together, almost won that, and were pretty good. I mean, an improvement from what they were everywhere else, which that's all you really need from Ferrucci. He's not the most likable driver on the grid, but I mean,
Definitely not.
yeah. The 20 of Ed Carpenter Racing, we know it's not going to be Connor Daly or Ed himself or Ryan Hunter-Reay. We've talked about Oliver Askew or Rasmussen going to the seat. I don't see anyone else. Ethan, do you see anyone else going to, well, either the 14 or the 20?
There's been some rumors about Simon Pagenaud joining Ed Carpenter, but I'm not really sure how realistic that is. So yeah, I'd like to see Rasmussen in that spot for sure. Yeah.
Now we've got the 2 Dale Coyne cars. The 18 car, which was fielded in a collaboration with HMD Motorsports for David Malukas. HMD and Malukas have moved on. HMD is just going to do Indy next with the empire of cars that they have there. And Malukas is now going to the 6 McLaren car. And the 51, which was driven by Stingray Robb last year, with Rick Ware, I do think that will be Robb again. It might be DeFrancesco. It also might be Hunter McElrea. I've seen his name there. I've also seen Roman Grosjean's name for both of the seats. Or Grosjean returned to Dale Coyne Racing.
Yeah, I think Grosjean will return to Dale Coyne.
Yeah, I do think Grosjean will be in one, and then a pay driver will be in the other. And I think it's going to be Devlin DeFrancesco. That's my prediction now. What are you thinking here, Ethan?
Yeah, I could very well see that. That's probably the most likely.
And now there's 3 seats kind of not up in the air, but 3 seats that we don't know. I have for AJ Foyt Racing what is now the 55. It's been other numbers in the past. I do think Benjamin Peterson has signed a deal. It's been disputed whether or not he has signed a multi-year deal on his rookie contract. I do believe he has. Even though he was abysmal last year, I don't see any reason to drop him. Let the kid develop. If he doesn't develop this year, you can drop him. I'm of the belief that spend 2 years on a guy to develop. Would you?
No, I definitely agree. Rough rookie season, but drivers have had rough rookie seasons in the past and then develop into good pieces. So, for sure, stick with him.
And
I don't think he should be cast out of the sport.
Yeah. We also have the 77, not McLaren. I do think this is going to be the McLaren car of Hooncoast's 2 cars. Callum Ilott, again, similar situation, was signed on a 2-year extension. I've seen rumors since the beginning of the year. Hooncoast could let him walk, and then Juncos isn't letting him walk. And now it's
Yeah,
saying
I think that'd be understandable.
Juncos doesn't want him for whatever reason. Well, I know. Well, the rumored reason is that him and Canapino don't get along.
I mean
Uh,
that's probably true, but I don't
yeah,
think that's a good enough reason to drop him.
yeah. If you're gonna drop one of the two guys, run the guy that hasn't produced results yet. Ilott looks like he could be a potential race winner. I do
Yeah,
think.
I
Well, the rumored driver I've seen going to that seat, if it's not Ilott, is Roman Grosjean, which would be interesting. I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening.
yeah, I think Grosjean will go back to Dale Coyne.
Yeah.
I think Ilott will go back to the seat. And if he doesn't,
Mhm.
that's a big mistake, really, in my opinion.
I agree with you, unless it's going to this last seat we're going to talk about, which is the fourth, whether or not it will run, Andretti car. The beginning of the
Mhm.
year, it was, oh yeah, not gonna have any more pay drivers. And then all of a sudden, DHL pulls out and looks like they're gonna go to Chip Ganassi. And now Andretti might want a pay driver for that seat. Well, who knows with the Roman Grosjean arbitration fiasco, if he might be in that seat, Cal might be in that seat, or if there's a seat, they might just stick with three cars. That is the biggest question mark left in IndyCar silly season. I will personally, I will say there will be the four Andretti cars on the grid, and that fourth car, along with Kirkwood, Herta, and Ericsson, will be driven by a very boring pay driver in Stingray Robb. That's my prediction now.
Yeah, I could see that. Boring, but
Mhm.
he's 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 no stranger to the series.
Mhm.
He's
Mhm.
a relatively safe bet. Um, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. All right.
With that, do you want to move on to our predictions?
Yeah, our previews. Formula One in Mexico City. Tell us about what to expect for that Grand Prix, Ethan.
I mean, really, you should probably expect Max Verstappen dominance once again, but it's a fairly unique track in the sense that it has such a long straightaway, um,
Mhm.
which will probably lead to Max running away further than we've seen in the last few races. Like even in Qatar, he was out pretty far ahead, but even further than that, this could be a very big win for Verstappen due to how fast that car is in the straight line. And we might not see a McLaren podium,
Mhm.
perhaps, due to the track. I don't think that their car really suits the track, but maybe I'm wrong. People have been speculating practically every race that this is going to be the race where the McLaren doesn't perform. Maybe the McLaren just magically performs everywhere now. But yeah, should be another big win for Verstappen.
All right. With the picks, uh, I will say with the last week, I got 17 points to Ethan's 20. So Ethan extends the lead to 36-28. And I will be taking I'll let you go first, Ethan. Tell me who you got
For okay.
for Mexico City.
Well, I think I've already spoiled that my race winning prediction is Max Verstappen.
Hmm. Yeah. And who you got for I'm in agreement. Max Verstappen winning. Who do you have for second place?
Um, I have Lewis Hamilton. He's had a
Interesting.
couple of 0 point results, so I think he's gonna he's going to be on top of it. He did very well in the US. I think he'll carry that momentum. I think the Mercedes will do really well there, but I could also see a Ferrari in second, or maybe even Sergio Perez. Like he's kind of a joke at this point, but he always does well in his home country.
Yeah, I would like to see Perez do well. I am not going with Perez. I am going with another Spanish speaker in Carlos Sainz. I do I I'm a believer in the McLaren falling off at Mexico City. I this might be my Formula One couch or not casual fans saying here. Doesn't Ferrari have a really good engine in theory?
Yeah, they have a pretty good engine.
Yeah, engine go fast, and they'll go fast on the straightaways with that engine. So that's my prediction there. Um, moving on, we'll let preview Martinsville. The Xfinity Series playoff grid heading into Martinsville is looking like that Sam Mayer has advanced and John Hunter Nemechek is 44 up. So all that he needs to do is get 19 more stage points than Cole Custer or Austin Hill. And he'll be locked in. Cole Custer and Austin Hill are both +3 on the cut line. Justin Allgaier's 3 out. In all but must-win scenarios, Sammy Smith is 49 back, Chandler Smith is 54 back, and Sheldon Creed is in a must-win scenario, 65 back. The points battle will be interesting if Smith or Creed wins, or if one of them don't win. It's going to be interesting to see if who will get the last 2 spots in Custer, Hill, and Allgaier, or if one of those 3 drivers I mentioned earlier win. It'll be still an interesting battle between those 3 to see who gets the last spot. So, with that, I'll go first here.
Sure.
I'm going with one of those guys that is on the bubble. I'm going Justin Allgaier to win. Ethan?
All right. So for the Xfinity Series, I think that I am going. Oh, I am going to go with Cole Custer. He's second in the championship right now. And a win would obviously help him a lot. Finished 13th last week. He's going to want to improve on that. So why not improve on that with a win? He also finished 3rd in the regular season at Martinsville. So there's that.
Before I talk about Cup Series preview, good news. Do you like
What's the good news?
The Suns have won.
Yeah, I was hoping you weren't going to mention that.
Anyway, back to the better racing, the better sport, NASCAR. We Bell and Larson have both won with their races at Homestead and Vegas, respectively. Byron is 30 points up. He can't clinch on stage points, but he's looking pretty safe if he does get a a good amount of stage points. Ryan Blaney is 10 points up. Tyler Reddick 10 points down. Truex and Hamlin 17 points down, and Chris Buescher needing a lot of help or a win and 43 points back. Buescher will have to do some significant damage in the stages if he wants to have a chance of pointing his way in. In the past year, we've seen a lot of bumping, banging, people mad at each other. I'm going to go with the bold prediction. There will be at least one beef this weekend. And that I will also say that beef will not lead into a fight.
Okay. So just like a shouting match or something.
Shouting match, one driver criticizing another in some way. Maybe a helmet toss. Though there's going to be something this weekend. And I do believe it. I'm going to go a step further and say it's going to be between a playoff driver and another playoff driver in one of the series.
Okay.
With all that being said, I'm going to take a guy that has won at Martinsville in the past, a guy who's in the playoffs. He could be in the middle of the beef, but I wouldn't expect him to because he's not that type of guy. I'm going to go with William Byron.
Okay.
Ethan, what do you have?
Okay. I'm picking a guy who's actually not in the playoffs.
Really?
But he is a guy who has done well there in the past, including this season. So I'm going to go with Joey Logano.
That was a good pick.
It's a little out there, but I
mean,
think I'm optimistic.
I will say, if he's in the playoffs, he's one of the favorites. So that's
Yeah.
not a bad pick. Anything else?
Just praying that my picks this week make me look smart.
Well, they have been so far this year. So,
Yeah.
there is a chance that I do pass you,
There is.
but it's gonna take a lot here. There's still a lot of racing left to do this year. There's still let me make it easy on myself. There's still 20 predictions left, including the ones that we just made. And we've only done 22, I want to say, so far. So you've looked good so far, but
Yeah. See how it goes.
Maybe I'm on a comeback.
Maybe.
Yeah, everyone, have a good one. And we'll see you next Wednesday at noon, Mountain Standard Time, not Mountain Daylight Time, when the next episode comes out. And one of us will look like a genius and the other one probably won't with our picks.
That's just the way it goes. Goodbye.